Thank you all for being here, and good morning. It's nice to see. I guess if I was an Aggie, I'd say howdy and see if everybody would go along with it. But good morning to everyone, and we're so pleased that everyone is here today and so excited to get to do this summit. But first and foremost, I'm Carol Rawson. I'm the Director of the Traffic Operations Division of the Texas Department of Transportation. And on behalf of USAA, the Texas Department of Transportation, and the Shriners Hospitals for Children, I'd like to welcome you to the first ever Texas Distracted Driving Summit. Very good. Please take a moment and look around you. Who you will see are your fellow Texans. They're educators, they're law enforcement, medical and business professionals, government officials, and families and victims of distracted driving. And they are here for the same reason that you're here. Distracted driving is an epidemic in our country. It's an epidemic at a national scale. In 2009, there were almost 5,500 people killed and 450,000 people injured in distracted driving crashes. In fact, 16% of all fatal crashes and 20% of all injury crashes involve driver distraction. And Texas is not immune to this either. Far from it. In 2011, our state had over 81,000 crashes that involved distractions in a vehicle. 361 of these crashes were fatal. Nearly 1 in every 4 crashes in Texas is caused by driver distraction. That term, driver distraction, covers a wide range of behaviors from behind the wheel. Everything from interacting with other passengers to eating, manipulating the dashboard controls, or reaching for something inside the vehicle. And of course, distracted driving also stems from cell phone use and texting. According to a study conducted by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, at any typical daylight moment, 660,000 vehicles are being driven by people using a handheld phone. And the percentage of drivers texting or manipulating a handheld device is increasing. Here's a statistic you may have already been familiar with, but it never fails to astonish me. Drivers who text behind the wheel are 23 times more likely to crash. Sadly, 16% of our teen drivers, more than any other group, are involved in fatal crashes where distraction is reported. But no one is immune. With us today are brave survivors and family members of victims of distracted driving. You'll meet them and hear their stories, and you will realize the magnitude of this problem. We are honored to be a part of the Texas Distracted Driving Summit, and it is also my great honor to introduce General Kevin Bergner, President of USAA's Property and Casualty Insurance Group, also my insurance company that I'm very proud of. USA's vision and support in presenting this summit is matched only by their commitment to the 9 million USAA members and thousands of employees in Texas and throughout the world. Ladies and gentlemen, General Bergner.
Carol, thank you very much. And I want to start by saying thank you for your leadership with the Department of Transportation here in the state of Texas, because it's that kind of leadership and personal commitment that will fundamentally help make a difference. And so thank you very, very much. Good morning to everybody. And for those of you not from San Antonio, yeehaw, welcome to San Antonio. We're glad to have you here. And as Carol pointed out, I want to just echo one thing she said, which is we are really honored to partner with the Texas Shriners Children's Hospital and the Texas Department of Transportation to help make the first ever Distracted Driving Summit for the state of Texas take place here today. This assembly, you collectively, are an important first step in identifying and understanding the causes and the activities that lead to distracted driving, And you bring a really terrific, multifaceted approach to understanding the problem. There are members of law enforcement here. There are military safety leaders here. In fact, I want to point out two, Command Sergeant Major Walter Beckman from the U.S. Army's Safety Center at Fort Rucker, Alabama, and Colonel Craig Rice, all the way from Randolph Air Force Base, but the Air Education Training Command's leader for safety and accident prevention for the United States Air Force. And as members of the military service, I want to say a special thanks for your service and what you're going to do in taking this kind of body of knowledge and information back to help protect military service members and their families. This is a great team, and it's one that is going to make some great progress today in better understanding, generating awareness, and helping people identify multifunctional, multidisciplinary kinds of approaches to deal with this dangerous problem in our society. This month, we asked our 23,500 employees across USAA throughout the United States to share with one another their stories of distracted driving, things they have observed in coming and going to work or going about their own personal business. The one unifying theme in all of that is that all of those stories have testified to the fact that we live in a society of multitaskers, and those multitaskers are increasingly doing all of that, all of those things behind the steering wheel as drivers. It is a real challenge and problem for our country. And it's one that, because we're a country of multitaskers, it tends to just sort of blend in to the theme of the day. Every single day at USAA, we deal with the consequences of distracted driving. And we hear about it from our members who are the victims, who are involved in those tragedies every single day. So it matters a lot to us as a company. It also matters a lot to me personally. And I don't have a single statistic that I'm going to share with you today. And I'm going to just talk to you on a personal level about why this matters to me. As a child, I experienced a different but very similar problem in our society called drunken driving. The results were similarly tragic to some of the stories you're going to hear from a very courageous group of victim advocates over the course of this day. Similarly tragic, but people had not really decided that drunken driving was a problem, something that should not be tolerated in our society back in 1967. So in 1967, in February, a young Cub Scout, 10 years old, was driving home from Scoutorama at the Coliseum in Corpus Christi, Texas. His mom happened to be his den mother, and she was behind the wheel, and he was in the front seat with her. And they moved through the intersection of Craig and Santa Fe in Corpus Christi. I never forget the intersection. And a drunk driver ran a red light and slammed into the side of that automobile, killing the driver, my mom, in that intersection at Craig and Santa Fe. In 1967, our society had not yet decided that drunk driving was a plague on our society, that it was unacceptable, that it was not to be tolerated, that everybody should have a predisposition to not operate an automobile while under the influence. We were making progress, but we weren't there yet as a society. Mothers Against Drunk Driving and a lady named Candace Leitner would help change that and would help mobilize our society in such a way that we collectively decided that's not something that we want anybody to do. Stricter laws and more surveillance and more enforcement helped contribute to a reduction. But mostly, it was awareness and a collective sense in our society that we want to do something about that and that we want to change those conditions. We have a similar opportunity today through this summit, through activities like this summit, to lead a commitment to confront this problem today that we now call distracted driving. And it's one that is more ubiquitous, it's more challenging in many respects, but it's no less important to the 10-year-olds that are riding in those automobiles today and are the potential victims, just like that 10-year-old in 1967. Different problem, but similar challenges for our society. So this summit today has the opportunity to bring a better sense of education and how we educate the driving public. It has the opportunity to leverage technology. There are people here today from the business sector that have technologies that will fundamentally change the dynamic in the cockpit of an automobile and help us to avoid the challenges of distracted driving. And you're going to hear from someone who has made this an important public policy issue for the United States of America later this morning when Secretary LaHood speaks to this group. This summit has great potential to change those dynamics. And I am personally excited about the prospect that it has to address the problems that our society has to confront. So thanks to all of you for committing yourselves to that problem, to this process, and helping us better understand it and find tangible ways that we can improve the circumstance in our country today. The lady I'm about to introduce is someone that I have enormous respect and admiration for. And she is someone who is doing for distracted driving what I watched throughout the course of my life others do to combat that other problem called drunk driving. Jennifer Smith has been a leading advocate for all of those circumstances I just described: better education, technology, public policy, and helping us truly understand the opportunities there. She has been a catalyst for change in the mindset of American citizens, and I am so excited that she is playing that leadership role. As the Dallas Morning News said, in fact, they compared what Jennifer Smith is doing today with what Candace Lightner did for Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and becoming that kind of a catalyst and being able to draw attention and understanding to the challenge that this problem creates for our country. Just as Mothers Against Drunk Driving helped our country see that drunk driving should not be socially acceptable, Jennifer Smith is among those at the forefront of a growing conviction to pay attention. Pretty simple. Pay attention. As we like to say in San Antonio, we are not her first rodeo, okay? She has worked on this on a global level through the United Nations. She has worked on this at a national level with a summit in Washington. And she has worked on it at the state level in the state of Illinois. And now we are very fortunate to have her doing the same thing for the state of Texas. So if you would all please join me in a warm welcome for Jennifer Smith.